Welcome. My name is Cynthia Lawson Jaramillo. I am delighted to welcome you to this month's La Hora of the Deed Research Lab at Parsons School of Design. I am the lab's director and one of the co-founders. And since 2007, we have been focused on the artisan sector, researching it, learning, critiquing, co-designing, working in communities, speaking with founders, doing workshops, all in the spirit of moving towards a more artisan-centric sector and trying to leave models of exploitation and commercial extraction behind. I'm delighted to welcome you here today. It is Women's History Month, and I was also delighted to learn the news from Mexico that 2025 was declared as the year of the Indigenous woman. So hopeful for great things to come from that initiative, though, as politicians are, I hope it's not just simply something symbolic. Today, you are our special guests, and the way that we facilitate these sessions is I will go around the Zoom room, call on you, and then you can share what brought you today very briefly, just less than 1 minute. Do you have a particular question? Are you working on a particular project on which you might want feedback? Are you hoping to connect with people working on similar projects as you are? Might you be looking for a resource for your own work? And then after we do a round of shares, and more people will arrive, but I think we'll stop at those of you who are here. Then I'll facilitate the conversation, and we can all participate in that way. So I will start with, on my top left, I see Shaumika. So Shaumika, do you have a thing that brought you here today?
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, everyone. I'm just joining as I often try to join. Um, and some of you may have heard a little bit about my project that I'm working on in West Bengal. It's for a it's for a weaving village in Shantipur, and we are working towards building a weaving center for a group of weavers, and that center is going to be uh, essentially next door to the master weaver's own home. As well as the weaving center on the other side of the house, we're going to have a dyeing center. And at the moment, we're working on just the dyeing vat, which is kind of being designed by a dyeing consultant. And we're trying to see if we can get that built even before we get the architecture in place, just because they need that at the moment. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the update. And thank you for being here. Anjali,
Thank
do you
you.
have a particular thing that brought you here today?
Yeah, finally my documentary is done, so I'll be sending it to you and see. um, and I also I think Liz might have contacted you, Liz Hartman. She she took your address from me. So I have like we have around 20-25 people from India who are the alumni of Parsons, and they asked me about your group and everything. So either if you give me your details, I can add you to the group, and then you can mm, that WhatsApp group. I can add you to that group, so you can
Okay,
put that.
happy to chat offline about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
that way,
Anjali.
there are many people from Mumbai, from Bangalore, from all over India, basically.
Great.
Yeah.
Look forward to connecting. Thank you. Pavitra, did you bring something in particular today? Oh, you're muted.
for 50 years. This is my 50th year since we started. So I primarily focus on recreating designs by creating livelihood, sustainable livelihood for my weavers. And we sell their designs in my store. We give a advance and a buyback, and then I give my design free to them. Some of my designs have been in the market for 48 years, and I've been involved in all the biggest prestigious things of textiles in India. Been mentored by people like Pupil Jaikar and Kamala Devi, all the big names. I have a very small setup, but I've got a museum called the Museum of Living Textiles. It celebrates textiles of what your grandmother wore and my grandmother wore, and it brings back a lot of memories. And artisans come there, sit down, draw, and look at it, and can take their craft forward with my guidance. And this is what I've been doing. I've been training weavers for so many years.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Clearly a wealth of experience here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Jenny, your camera's not on, but I will ask, do you have a thing that brought you here today?
Well, it's the first time I've joined, and what I found interesting was just the topic in general of the slowness and sustainability. So I was just interested in, and I was curious, and I wanted to join to see what it was all about. So, so no topic in particular on my side, but I was just more interested in hearing everybody and seeing maybe next time I will.
Excellent. Thank you for coming. Thanks for being here. Leandra, you have a particular thing that brings you today?
Hi, greetings.
Hi.
Hi, I'm actually on an airplane. I just left Mardi Gras. I go every year as one of the rituals when the Indians come out. And so I'm interested in indigenous cultures, ritual for liberation, all of those topics, the mother. So I'm just here to listen and hear everybody. But thank you.
Thank you, Leandra. I don't know that we've had anyone ever join us from an airplane, so you're a first. It's great. Una, you have a particular thing that brings you here today? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, Una, but we cannot hear you, so I'm going to continue to go around the circle. Ritu, do you have a particular thing that brings you here today?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So I'm a student at Parsons, and I'm also a part of the Impact Venture Lab. And as a part of that, I'm trying to work on an impact venture that's centered in the craft sector. Right now, I'm working on an idea which tries to bring a lot of the traditional art forms in very, say, interactive craft kits to a lot of the audience out here. So I'm just trying to go through a list of assumptions that I have and trying to validate things before I try and actually, invest money and effort into this thing, and seeing what is the sort of need that something like this could cater to. So trying to build it out as a venture and seeing what scope there is to sort of play around with this idea of slowness, sustainability, craft. I'm planning on doing a couple of workshops around using a lot of our traditional craft practices as mending practices. So that's something that I've been working on recently. But yeah, I'm here just to listen in and sort of hear from people who are also working in the similar space.
Welcome. Thank you. Maybe in a few minutes you can share your list of assumptions with us and we can all participate, workshop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Diane, do you have a thing that brings you here today?
I'll turn my video on briefly. I'm not feeling really well, so I have it off most of the time. I'm here because Shamika invited me to participate. I'm not affiliated with Parsons, but I am very engaged with textiles. I'm on the board of a nonprofit organization called Weave a Real Piece, or WARP, which is an international group of makers, academics, people who are working with artisans. I come to it as a collector and lover of all things related to artisans. And as part of my work with Warp, we run a small grants program that started as a COVID emergency grant for artisans when the tourism industry basically hit the floor, and they had no means of income. But since then, it has actually developed into very small development grants of $500 to $1,000. And we get applications from all over the world for these are very small projects with grassroots artisans, and I'm happy to share more about the organization. So I'm just here to learn what you all are doing.
Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry you're not feeling well. Would love
okay.
to learn more about Warp. So thank you for introducing it to me.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. Daniela, you have a thing that brought you here today?
Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Cynthia. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm also a master's student at Parsons. I'm in the MA Fashion Studies program. Yeah, I'm interested in all of these topics, and my thesis research is kind of exploring alternative modes of sustainability through more like sensorial and mindfulness-based practice, but also interested in like the intersection of that with craft and slow fashion. So yeah, happy to hear everybody's different projects and ideas. I'm just here to listen in and yeah, cultivate community. I think it's really important to share and just to connect.
Thank you, Daniela, so much for being part of our community and for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Claudia, do you have a thing that brought you here today?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Claudia. Hi, Cynthia. Yes, my first time here in this meeting. Very happy to join. I'm a part-time faculty at Parsons. I'm also a PhD student at MIT. And indigenous from Peru. I'm Quechua, and a lot of my research is on indigenous data visualization in the Amazon of Peru. And actually, it includes textiles and weaving as artifacts that carry knowledge and that carry stories. Later this year, we will have an exhibition here at MIT where we're going to showcase different artifacts that indigenous women in the Amazon use to convey stories, and it's going to be a co-design exhibition with them. Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Jasnoor, do you have a thing that brought you here today?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm also a student at Parsons, but I have a background in textile design in India. And I worked in the craft sector with the government of India to uplift embroidery from my state called Fulkari. So I'm excited to see where our conversations go within design and craft sector.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anshu, nice to see you again. Anshu was a former guest in Laod. I'll put the link to her recording in the chat. What brings you here today, Anshu? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, no, I just really enjoyed the conversations we had the last couple of times I joined in. And the project that I had shared last time, we've been able to, slowly grow it. So I just wanted to stay in touch and listen in to various things that are happening with different people. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshu. Let me put, people want to watch it later. That's the recording of when Anshu presented her work at Laura. Really inspiring works. Thank you.
Actually, may
yes.
I add? Yeah, I also wanted to say that we were talking about this whole intersection of design and craft. And we've actually, if you see the recording, we were basically incubating a project where 10 artisans attended an artisan residency within their own homes. And we now have a body of work of 21 textiles. And the textiles traveled for the IOTA. and were very much appreciated, and we're looking forward to showing it in Bangalore now. So it's been very interesting to see the women find their own voice and, sort of talk about the stories of the biodiversity of their region without actually meaning to. Like, it was not a conceptualized thing, but what came out is so cohesive that it's been very exciting.
Amazing. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that update.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you. Okay.
Okay, a few more. I won't be able to get to everyone. We're a big group today, but Caroline, did you have a thing that brought you here today? You're muted, Caroline.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hi. Yes.
Yes, so I am actually a design student, a master's student in the design thinking program, that's based between Paris and New York. And I'm working on an independent or passion project right now related to kind of extending the life cycle of materials and just sustainable practices within fashion. So yeah, I just thought this would be an interesting topic to talk about.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. That sounds great. Many overlaps already. Isabella, do you have a thing that brought you here today?
Hi. Yeah, so I'm an undergrad in Parsons. I'm from the Philippines, but now I'm based in New York for school. Yeah, so I've just been collaborating with artisans in the Philippines for a while. And as a senior, my thesis research has been heavily involved around like designer and artisan relationships and how like craft has developed this culture of care, or vice versa, powered by matriarchal design or design of care, and how we as like future designers can uplift and sustain that in the fashion industry today, together with like artisans as the lead. So seeing your email and all the topics that kind of were going to be discussed really interested me, and I just like hearing from everyone. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll end with Tarshni. Tarshni? Sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. Do you have a thing? Do you want to share? Okay, in that case, Madeline, do you want to share?
I'm so sorry. Like I
Oh,
was trying to figure out how to unmute
Tarshni,
myself.
okay.
Hi. Hi everyone. I'm Darshni. I am an alumni of Parsons. I was part of strategic design and management program for my master's, and I saw your email, Cynthia, and I think this kind of resonated with me. I've always been interested in textiles. My background is in textiles, so just wanted to listen in and be part of the community.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank you. Madeline.
Hello. Sorry, I'm on a journey to get to studio today, but I'm a first year in the transdisciplinary design program. And Cynthia, when I saw your email, I was really excited to connect with just mostly like a group of people focusing on similar things. Because I think that a lot of the time in like, especially higher education and design, we get really focused on like technology and advancement and lose touch with like our rituals and traditions. And I'm specifically interested in ceramics and pottery, as well as traditions of food and fermentation. And so I felt like I had a lot to learn from the way that all of you are thinking about like textiles and weaving as like a pattern that I can implement on some of the topics I'm focusing on. So thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, great. So glad you found us. Now we can stay connected. Wonderful. Nicole, did you have a thing?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a sophomore in Parsons, and I'm really interested in incorporating like collaborations with the Bolivian artisans in my collection because my father is from Bolivia, and so I grew up really connected to that part of my family heritage. And I noticed that Bolivia is still very kind of an unrecognized country in Latin America. So I really want to bring like a positive representation to the culture and kind of share the culture in a way that really like focuses on helping the country move forward rather than just exploiting artisans and continuing this cycle of like, classism in fashion.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here, and we'll look forward to addressing some of what you're exploring. That sounds wonderful. So Maria Fernanda, you arrived as we had started, so maybe you can in the chat share what brings you here today if you have a particular question or topic or area of interest. Others have shared in the chat. You may not see the chat. But maybe to kick things off, Pavitra, I see that you're back. Thank you for coming back. There were several questions about your museum. Where is your museum, or could you share a little bit more about the museum that you briefly told us about, the Museum of the Living Textiles?
So my museum is in Bangalore. It's close to Victoria Layout. As I told you, the museum was started 6 years ago, though I've started my practice in 1974. The museum primarily was set up to look at artisans having an opportunity to see textiles from beyond their area, because otherwise they see only things in their district and are not exposed to other textiles. The textiles in my collection, I've never been a collector, and most of it other than our collection has been donated. So we carry a lot of goodwill and blessings, I think. It celebrates everybody's grandmother's textiles. So I don't have anything of royalty saying 18th century, 19th century at all. So it talks about a memory of everybody's grandmother or the person who's donated it. Or with my knowledge, I'm able to also build a story. And through that, I think my main mission is to say celebrate what is common between your culture and my culture, because it's very essential, especially in today's world. And in every textile, you could find two different identities from totally different regions. And I think that helps build up this communication and, should stop nonviolence, I think when we celebrate what you and me share, we don't need to be violent with each other. And that's a great learning tool for all my viewers. We have all the design schools coming, everyone coming, because I don't think anywhere else they look at textiles that are non-royal. Every museum has 18th century about a king who we can only read in history books. This is about people who've been living. So we have a relationship, little of their stories, what makes the textile, what is it that drove. We could think of what drove the weaver to create these kind of things. And there's a lot of interconnectedness across seas. And I think it's a great way to expose people instead of looking at everything only on the internet as research. Most of this is based on oral stories. So in my practice, I talk and document oral stories of older weavers, then put together design from their memories, and then create textiles that anyone can wear. But talking on sustainability, I have done a lot of work with waste since 20 years. I'm not somebody who's able to talk too much about myself. Recently, I've been working with the pastoral communities, and they don't have any machine or any chemical in their textiles, in a very indigenous old system. So in this, so in this system, my biggest success is last month, it was won to the Grammy Awards. So the Kambli, what I call that I designed, was won to the Grammy Award by Ricky Cage. So anything that we've done has gone forward always, and that is my great hope. The impact has always been there, and I don't own whatever I design is with them. I don't hold on, and I don't have ownership. I don't want to have ownership. Thank you.
Is you're the person behind Vimor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let me put the link in the chat. Diane was asking for a website. So that is the link to your
we have Vimor and Vimor Handloom Foundation. Both we have.
I found this article that also then mentions the Museum of Living Textiles and the foundation.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
And I know it's the first time we're meeting, but in the spirit of learning,
I
I
I
want to
have
share, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable that you talk about the weavers as my weavers. And I wonder if you might share with
it's
us a
okay. Can
little
I
bit
tell
of, I wonder if you might share with us what
Okay,
that
they're not.
relationship is with
No, I
the
do not.
weaver. Oh,
Yeah, just to clarify, I do not own a loom. I do not have a factory. I do not have a shed. So none of them, by referring to them as my weavers, they are part of my family. So in that sense, I can tell you that that's why I refer to them as my weavers. My relationship goes beyond commerce or anything else. So it's a very, very close relationship, and they have 70%. My success is 70% of them can buy me out. They become so big, and I'm training the second and third generation. That's my success.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
You know, Nicole, you had shared that you're starting in this space and that you're interested in setting up potentially collaborations with Bolivian artisans. And one of the things that we have studied in the Deed Lab and that we really encourage everyone to be really careful about is the choice of words and the language that we use. One of the rules that we have for when we do field work working with communities directly is, in fact, we don't ever use the word help. So wanted to reflect that back to you, that we move beyond really this dynamic of helping. Helping is a word that carries so much power and assumes and doesn't acknowledge the privilege in the word, but it assumes that that I know what people need and that I have what they want or what they need. So always encourage you as you're getting started in this work to replace the word helping with the active verb, right? Is it about generating income? Is it about sustaining livelihoods in the long run? Is it about new forms of design? Is it about sustainability? Is it about what is it about? The word help makes it so easy for us to claim social impact. And if we practice not using it, it really encourages us to be very specific about it. The other question I would have for you, Nicole, and invite others to also chime in, since there's a wealth of experience in this online room, is why the need for the collaboration. So I hear you saying, I want to bring a positive representation of Bolivian culture. I want to maybe reframe or challenge what people know about Bolivia or the ways in which it's presented globally. Why the need to collaborate, and how might you have a meaningful, slow, trust-centric way of working with any community you might involve. So I'm always concerned with student work that requires 1 week spring break, which is when we are on break from classes. I'm going to travel and do some workshops and then come back and show my final project or thesis, because that kind of speed ends up being quite extractive, doesn't allow for a long-term relationship. So many of the brands that we've met with as a lab, we also push back against the word collaboration because they use the artisans as their workforce they're making things that then the brand helps sell. There's not a lot of collaboration in being the worker within an organization, right? And so how might you imagine ways of sharing power, ways of empowering? How are you creating a model that really centers artisans' knowledge, culture, creativity, skills and techniques in ways that really then they're not just the producers, but in fact they are the collaborators. And happy to chat more. Now you know where to find me, and delighted that we're connected. This semester I'm teaching a class called Sustainable Slowness. And this is why in my email I was saying, well, what I'm thinking about for this month's La Hora has to do with sustainability, has to do with slowness. And I have become deeply convinced that the only true path towards real sustainability is a slow one. It relates to slow production, slow consumption, moving at the speed of trust, which is a phrase I love, a lot of people use, requires slowness. And in fact, the ways of living and working of craftspeople, of indigenous communities, model for us sustainable living. But when we bring in our very capitalist frameworks from our accelerated urban lives or lives elsewhere, we are disrupting that potential sustainability, while at the same time claiming to be ethical brands or sustainable designers. So that's where my mind is. I've been working with students. Daniela, you mentioned mindfulness-based practices. We had my colleague Cotter last week in class doing a session on mindfulness, and we all mindfully, slowly ate a tangerine, which was an amazing experience. And not sure if you want to share a bit more, Daniela, of what you're thinking about or working on.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I love what you were saying about slowness, Cynthia, and this act of slowing down. And I basically, for my research for my thesis, I was exploring this question of how can we come into presence with the everyday items in our wardrobe through engaging with them in kind of alternative ways. So I led a practice-based sessions where basically participants bring in items from their wardrobe, and then they're guided through kind of a practice of attuning their senses to smell, to touch, to weight of garments, and to wearing them. And really kind of, it's a practice of introversion where we kind of bring to the surface the kind of pre-conscious ways in which dressing affects us and moves us and shapes us. So yeah, I think I've just been thinking a lot about slowing down and cultivating a sense of like appreciation for that which we already have, and that kind of being intervention some way into sustainable fashion, not from like the outside in, but from like the inside out, and creating spaces that offer like individuals the like direct experience of like interfacing with their garments in these like new or novel ways that can like, you know, potentially create different landscapes or ways of relating from like that kind of very subjective first person perspective. So that's kind of my thoughts. And I was even thinking about how you could extend that into the realm of like textiles and culturally rich you know, objects and wearable forms, and can we kind of feel the embedded stories, right, that are latent within that act of making and creating, and I thinking about like kind of cultivating that appreciation, right, embedded within within them. So
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. And let's stay on ways of relating. And Claudia, maybe you can share a bit more about this. You shared it in the chat, but for people watching the recording, in the Amazon, you say you use the word acompañar, pointing out to the action of walking together as equals. You want to share a bit more about that, Claudia, and how you think about accompanying instead of or in addition to collaborating?
Yeah, so I think this comes from the approach of the Quechua language, which is a very verb-based language. So oftentimes people say, for example, el caminar, like the action of walking, but not so much in a literal way, like el caminar as we do things, as we think together. And so acompañar is, yeah, it's literally like walking side by side. And so there's no, let's say, like hierarchies or yeah, like extraction or monetization of culture, but it's more about a reciprocal relationship, because when you are acompañando, it means that the other person is also accompanying you. So it's a two-way action.
I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that. That's great. Maria Fernanda, I see that you are ready. So tell us
Yeah,
more about love, your invitation for us to
yeah. For me,
talk
it's
about
so
love.
important. The regenerative vision comes for the true proposal, building a brand from the philosophy or begin to do. Because if you are true, you are yourself, you feel yourself, you can see the world with your heart, and you can bring or make a strong brand because have a real proposal. No, it's because ego, because I will like to stay with Anna Wintour and have many photos. No, because I will like to feel strong, because I think my brand have proposal. I like to the people feel happy, or I like to the people, all the people stuff in the project feel good. And this is my responsibility. No, it's different when I feel responsibility, when don't feel responsibility. No, and this is, I think so, it's important to come to see the cultures, the Mexican, Japanese, Indian philosophy, because give the different ways to see the world. And okay, open my vision. Yeah, and I feel the acompañar. I feel me siento acompañada, no? And this is the world, no? And that's
Love it. Thank you so much. And to translate for non-Spanish speakers, me siento acompañada would be I feel accompanied, or maybe even I feel that I am in your company. So much we could continue on that. Ritu, I'd love to turn to you if you're up for sharing your list of assumptions with us, and maybe we can give you some concrete feedback. Not sure if it's a list that you can paste into the chat or something you want to share verbally, or
So
share your screen if you have a slide, or did I lose you?
hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So there are these two larger questions that I've been thinking about, which I would like to share with the group.
We keep losing you though. So I wonder if your connection is not stable enough. Ritu, we cannot hear you.
Okay, I think when I switch tabs, it just like goes away. Now it's fine, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are two larger questions that I've been thinking about. Looking at a lot of artisans now also becoming designers and producing works that are very individual to themselves, which talk about their lineage, but also combine the craft form. Like there is also a trend of like growing design schools for artisans. So I was thinking of how a lot of their work can be made more accessible to people. And one of the biggest assumptions that I had, that people who usually buy from artisans or, support their livelihoods are people who are already in the craft sector. So how do we sort of expand people to, learn more about the sector, the work that's happening, and engage in more than just buying the craft, also like learning about the craft? And can that be done through some ways of making together and, processing even our day to day? And can making sort of help us slow down, and in that process can we also support
people who are makers. And the second thing that I've been thinking about is how we're constantly moving to a more digital sort of world where all our interactions become more and more digital every day. So then what does that mean for the artisan sector, which is very tactile and around physical objects of making? How does something like an art or a craft form translate to an online platform? The second question is more vague, but I'm also thinking about how can people who are very far away from something like this still experience it and get some sense of what it is that sort of pushes them to explore and learn more about the field.
Interesting. So, this idea of making together, how have you thought about making together without ending up with somebody who's not part of the original culture gaining more than the knowledge holders?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so the making together, I'm thinking, let's say designer and artisan, right? This is the
Yeah.
typical separation that we explore in our lab.
Yeah.
How can a designer make with an artisan and not end up being the one who benefits the most?
So what I am imagining was people who want to, so say for example, people who have no knowledge of, people who are not designers or who want to engage in making, learning from artisans is what I was imagining. Like the dynamic that I'm imagining is not designers collaborating with uh, artisans to start their own brand, but people who don't know anything about the artisan sector or the craft sector, like this being their first touch point to getting to know about the sector, like getting more people excited about this idea of making.
Right. And then how do you avoid the designer culturally appropriating the skills that the artisans teach them?
Yeah, that is something.
And
yeah.
nothing you have to answer right
Yeah.
now, but I think
Yeah.
that ends up being a key question.
Yeah.
How
I
do
think-
you ensure
Yeah.
really fair compensation?
Yeah.
And in the fall, we had the pleasure of hosting the
Yeah.
part of the book launch for this this work by Judy Frater, who is, has I would say the exemplar when we think about schools of design for artisans. And in the Q&A, somebody asked one of the artisans, how long did it take to make the scarf that he had there? And Judy interrupted and said, when was the last time you asked a painter in a gallery how long it took them to make their painting? And she was pushing back against our hourly based pricing model, especially because indigenous and traditional artisans are practicing skills that have been passed down from generations, and
Yeah.
we can't possibly quantify the labor spent on a particular product
Yeah.
is so much smaller than the hundreds of years of knowledge that is embedded in it. And so I think it's a beautiful challenge for you as you think about this model of making together. How do you honor those centuries of knowledge? And ultimately, what is in it for the artisan that they're teaching somebody what they know or what they do? Like why should they do that? And so the newcomer to the craft sector has everything to gain, absolutely, from having this very immersive, potentially one-on-one moment or series of moments with a craftsperson who has invaluable knowledge and skills. But what is in it for the craftsperson? And the word sustainability has come up today a lot across various of our conversations. And there's the environmental sustainability, but there's also the need for both financial sustainability. So how do you ensure that this isn't just a one-off thing? That
Yeah.
you can really sustain. And I think, Pavitra, the fact that you've been working with multiple generations is to us really inspiring, right? That it's a sustained life commitment, life project, not just a one-off kind of thing. And then social sustainability. How does the artisan not just receive fair compensation? How do they grow? How do they evolve? How does this open new opportunities? And so I would really ask the artisans what they want, what they
Yeah.
might want from these interactions or from these models.
May I share something in this context?
Go ahead, Anshu.
Yeah. So we recently, I was part of this organization called the Center for Pastoralism, and they exhibited in Bangalore. And one of the things me and another person curated together was the marketplace, which brings in, because all crafts, essentially, a lot of them come from the pastoral systems. And, normally when we do like a marketplace, the artisans that come to sell, or are even entrepreneurs, they're busy with selling, and it's all about like, how much did you sell? Have I sold enough? Do I have a customer? So just to break that, we sort of interspersed it with like teaching workshops over weekends, which, invite people to come and learn. And when people come and learn, they also begin to appreciate more closely what they're going to invest in. So I think that's one way of looking at this act of learning. And I mean, the joy on everybody's faces was quite something. And even the artisans teaching makes them feel very, how shall I say, like anyone who dispenses knowledge, it's a joyful act. So I think when we become very, very protective about, I understand completely what you're saying, but when we become very protective about, knowledge and this, that, then the sharing can also kind of stop. So it's just something to think about, like, where does exploitative activity, take over, and where does knowledge sharing, which is such a human, joyous thing, like, where does that sit? And is there a place for that? And then during the week, the same two people who were invited over and above the sellers were actually invited to be part of what, in an urban sense, we would call a community studio. But essentially, it allowed them to engage with each other, learn from each other, and kind of, grow. And in the end, when they said that, oh, the sales were not great, but now we feel like a family. And actually, there's a lot for us to think about, because if someone who's working with wool in the Deccan is, learning techniques from someone in the Himalayas, there is a danger that, the authenticity of both can get diluted. But at the same time, the sharing also is interesting because it's not frozen in time, it's a practice. I mean, just as we as designers, learn new things and absorb them, I mean, a practice is never frozen in time. So I don't know, these are just some of the things that came up for me to see this kind of interaction happen. Just wanted to.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I also want to, I'll tell them. Oh, go ahead.
Can I just put in a bit of
Go ahead, Pavitra.
Yeah, similarly, I worked with the pastoralists for 4 years. And the way of sharing it, I think, is it's their craft, it's their identity. So you can't take away, as a designer, we've never taken away anything from the core issue of their thing. Only thing I think I have done is we have worked together, both collaborated, putting food on the plate, because they are not only weavers, they're traders, they also run businesses, plus they shear the sheep, and they're pastoralists. But they've made black blankets for centuries, okay, and I've never commercialized it. So my role was to commercialize that practice and put it out. So beginning point is putting food on their plate and giving them the pride and confidence in their own craft. That takes them to a different level. And from the experiments that I did there, we took those samples and gave it to 3 other centers and say, reinterpret it. So I am not holding on to it and claiming that it was mine. It is theirs and it goes back to them. That's how I've always worked, taken it and given it back to them for their ownership. Okay, and now the highlight was, if the shawl that I did with the pastoral community was worn to the Grammys, it's a huge thing. They do not know what a Grammy is. But if it has come to center stage on an international level, it is creditable. It's not that I've had my name put on all this, but it's just what you could do from putting food on the table, building pride, building confidence, and giving them independence to take their own culture with pride forward. In a way, that is a commercial necessity, and I think we need to look at it. How can you commercially build on it? Because if it's not commercially viable, then it is, what does it give to them? Here, other than the pride, it should also be financially sustainable, and I believe that is the core of it. If you don't put it as a financially sustainable model, which is creative and culturally rich with their heritage, only then can it take forward. And I've always done this and let go of it. They cannot hold back and say it'll dilute from one area to the other, because if any craft or any design has to move forward, it has to make change. Change has to be innovative, creative, aesthetic, and market friendly also. You need all these things to be having a continuous system. Otherwise, it just doesn't take that, And I've seen in my other practices, this happens all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ritu, I hope this is all contributing to your explorations. A lot has been shared.
Definitely. I think these are also questions that I've been carrying, also because I keep coming to the session once in a while. So they sort of get reiterated. So because it's a venture thing, I'm also talking to a lot of people who would go through the experience, but at the same time, I'm trying to balance it out by talking to enough artisans and see if that is really something that people want. And if not, then what is it that they want?
Yeah, and I appreciate, Diane, you shared in the chat, the Navajo weaver Linda Teller Peet talks about why she teaches weaving despite many people criticizing her for sharing their secrets. She feels strongly that sharing their techniques is important. And so I put a link there to the recording on YouTube of that talk for anybody who might want to watch that. I also shared these 2 articles from my colleague Otto von Busch. One of them is called the Chronopolitics of Slow Fashion, and the other one is called What is to be Sustained. So for those of you exploring and all these issues of time and sustainability, creative practice making, really worth a look. So we have 5 minutes left. Is there anybody who wanted to share before we leave? I didn't know, Shaumika, if there was something in particular you wanted to share with us about the project, or was it just that update? Or Isabella, if there was a particular question in the work that you're exploring. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I didn't want to necessarily share anything about the project, but I just wanted to maybe share a bit generally about, or contribute to the conversation. One thing I wanted to just say is that I think I agree with you that it's very difficult to sort of spend a week during spring break, go somewhere and work with artisans and then get somewhere. But I do think it's important to encourage anyone who's trying, and to perhaps to perhaps observe, to think about it, to learn from that experience, even if it's very short, because that 1 week could contribute to a longer term project in the future, or to thinking in general about it. So I think it's also important to encourage that in some way. And I think the discussions about language are very important also. I do want to acknowledge that a lot of us are speaking in our second and third languages, or etc. And so sometimes things get lost in translation, or maybe they're sort of there are words that we might be using that have a different connotation for us in our first language than they do in our second and third languages. So I feel like that's a challenge. And lastly, I don't want to be too much of a downer, but I just wanted to kind of also acknowledge that many designers are also struggling with sustainability in their own practices. And so I think that exacerbates many people's ability to, or it creates further challenges for designers who are perhaps well-intentioned and are trying to, work in a non-exploitative way, but end up also having to consider their own practice and their ability to continue their own practices. So just something that came to mind.
Wonderful, beautiful invitations. Thank you so much. I certainly don't want to discourage anybody from doing the work, and I want us to be careful about the words I use. So the example I gave about traveling in spring break, the issue I have with it is when a designer claims that that was co-design or collaboration, and being really honest about what it is, which is really important primary fieldwork research. And then also reading up on maybe indigenous research methodologies or the ethics of research and how we might engage as researchers in non-extractive ways. That would be the kind of pairing I would suggest. But yeah, really thinking about how do you adjust to the time that you have and the resources that you have to engage in the kind of, let's say, project that you're hoping to explore. How do you then scale the impact or goal or hopes for community involvement in a very realistic ways that will hold you accountable in that way? So that is the end of today's La Hora. As always, the time flies by. I really appreciate you coming. I love this community. Look forward to seeing you on April 2nd, and always trying to make more time to post the recordings of our prior ones. But if there are any that are of our topics of particular interest, let me know and I can maybe share a non-edited recording for the work that you might be doing. Thank you and look forward to seeing you soon.